Troupe. We're named for Oscar Romero, the slain Archbishop of El Salvador. We do social justice theater. And some of you may have seen this scene. We're just going to do one scene. It's called Billy. It was a true story that came from one of the members of our troupe that works with homeless people about a man he met and how his relationship developed with him. What happened with Billy. So, what? We're going to go ahead with this. Human beings are inherently good. This is the greatest of life's lessons. And it was taught to me by Billy, a man without a home or a friend. Billy was an alcoholic drifter who spent a lot of time in jail. All the sheriffs and deputies knew Billy. They all called him a mean drunk. I met Billy at Denver County Jail while working as a new case manager. When I asked the sheriff to bring Billy down from his cell so I might talk with him, the sheriff replied, "Why would you want to talk with him?" To my surprise, Billy called me a week later. He was at a clinic downtown. He was very drunk, walking in traffic, starting fights with people. I didn't know how to help that day. I called the detox van. As he was taken away, Billy gave me an angry, cold glare. I wondered if I was right for this job. Billy kept calling, and I grew to know him. He was 58 years old, but could pass for 75. He had large ears. He was a severe alcoholic with a long criminal history, had never held a job. All the cops in town knew Billy. Even the nurses said he was a mean and nasty drunk. He'd been 86th out of most shelters and food lines in town. The service provider's tone would change the minute I mentioned Billy's name. People moved away from Billy everywhere he went. He remembered sitting on a bus. And the people on the bus wouldn't sit next to him, even though it was the only empty seat. Billy said his own niece boarded the bus and wouldn't sit with him, pretending not to see him. Billy told me he walked the streets all night long, sometimes sneaking into apartment houses and sleeping in hallways. The world went out of its way to ignore Billy. He told me he would go days without talking to anyone. The only human contact he had was fighting off some teenagers trying to beat him up. One night, he was picked up and put in jail on some old charges. After 3 days, they released him at 2 a.m. and told him he could come back at 8:30 to collect his belongings. It was 5 degrees outside. He had nowhere to go. I kept checking on Billy, finding him in the morning on the street, making sure he made it through the night. I spent a lot of time walking around with Billy, talking to him. Billy began to open up to me and we became close. The Billy that I came to know was quiet and caring, scared and sad, almost out of hope. He told me no one had ever checked up on him before or looked for him in the morning. He cried once when he told me his family had shunned him. But he did not blame them. He had made a lot of mistakes. He once told me he was scared that he would die and no one would care. I was grateful for the love that Billy showed me. Billy started going long periods without drinking, once for several weeks. He would relapse and then get sober and call me to say he was ready to try again. I told him I was there for him, sober or drunk. Once I was able to give him a bus pass, the first that he had ever had. Billy said he took the bus as far west to the end of the line as he could. He said that this was as far from downtown and as close to the mountains as he had ever been his whole life. He touched the foothills and smelled the pines.
Call him and tell him I'm coming over to him. Tell him.
One morning, I received a call in my office from the coroner. Billy died of a head injury. I never found out what happened to him. Someone said he just slipped on the ice and hit his head. Someone else said he received some money and was robbed and murdered. I never tried to find out the answer. I guess I was scared of the truth. Billy taught me a lot. He taught me not to judge others, that every one of us is worthy, that people who are the hardest to love are the ones who need it the most. In my work and in my life, as I encounter people living on the streets, I try to remember Billy and do what I can for them without judgment. I try to listen to them, to convey to them that they matter. I try to see everyone on the street, to recognize them as people, to say hi to them. It's a small thing, but Billy taught me that it matters. Billy's family chose not to have a service, and I accepted this. He's buried in an unmarked pauper's grave. And today, in one of Denver's homeless shelters, there's a plaque on the wall to remember Billy. Inscribed on the plaque are the words, "Billy's life was proof that the essence of man is good."